to the producers and the brands so they can understand the performance of their products and how consumers are reacting to them. And then based on that, comply with the strict regulations that everyone believes that is prohibited to talk about cannabis effects, but it is not. It's just that the government knows that there is a lot of bullshit out there and misinformation that they are trying to protect the consumer from misleading information. So they are saying, and if you want to describe any product attribute and make such claims for informational marketing, you need to prove it. You need to show that it's probably true.
House of Brain. If you've worked in cannabis for more than a few minutes, you'll have realised it's really tough, often illegal, to state what effect your product has. That's a pain for brains, but it sucks for consumers too, particularly the canna-cautious who want more certainty around mind-altering experiences. To help us understand what's really going on and to get a look at where the industry is headed, we speak to someone with some answers. Israel Gasperin, the founder and CEO of Zentrela. Hello and welcome to the Lobsterpot podcast. I'm Dave Barton and I'm not in a plantation as it might look. And if you look closely at my head, you can see the kind of 70s earth, wind and fire effects that you get, you know, from those like 70s music videos that used to have. But I'm not here alone. It's not just about me and what I'm doing today in this video. It could be. I'd quite happily sit here and talk about myself for 25 minutes. But that would be kind of boring for the rest of you. But let's talk to our co-host, Jamie Bonton. How you doing, Jamie? All right?
Yeah, I'm very good. So on the opposite end of the spectrum, not happy talking about myself for 25 minutes, which I'm guessing is why this works.
Yeah, well, I could talk about you for 25 minutes. There's many things I could say. But again, it's not about you either, unfortunately. Not today, at least. That's a whole nother story. Today, we have a very special guest, Mr. Israel Gasperin, who's the founder and CEO of Zentrela, based in Canada. Good day to you, sir. How are you?
Pretty good. Good morning here in Canada, guys. Good afternoon on the UK side. Very happy and glad to be here with you to chat about cannabis and research.
Yeah, so cannabis and research. Now tell us a little bit more about what you're doing, because you have a very innovative approach to innovation and cannabis. And tell us more, because it's more about what your research is about, the effect that cannabis has and being able to track that, because that's something that I don't know. I've never seen that possible before. It's quite unique. So please tell us more.
Right. So yeah, we are a cannabis effect research company. We focus on scientifically characterizing the effects and specifically the non-therapeutic effects of cannabis in order to enable researchers and cannabis companies to understand how their products perform, and based on that, help the consumer to make informed purchasing and consumption decisions. The novel aspect of our research is the brainwave analysis that we are conducting, where basically we combine EEG technology to record brainwaves or electrical brain activity from different regions of the brain, and then combine neuroscience with machine learning in order to detect and quantify psychoactive effects and mood changes triggered by the consumption of recreational cannabis products. So it's a huge spectrum of effects.
It certainly sounds like it.
Cannabis, right?
You can tell how high someone's getting effectively, or what that's actually physically happening to their brain, or can you monitor what's going on in their brain and go, because that's happening in this part, that probably means they're feeling this. Is it that clean cut? Is that?
Yeah. So back in 2016 and 2018, our vision was to combine all of these technologies and science in order to develop standardized, objective, and measurable methods for characterizing cannabis effects. If you think about it, that has been probably the main problem of not conducting cannabis effect research, because there didn't exist an objective and reliable way of quantifying it. How do you measure being high? The previous solution that we had was a completely subjective opinion from the consumer, how high you are from 0 to 10, and that is very different from a new consumer to a daily heavy cannabis consumer. So it was completely unreliable, that subjective measurement. What we did is to combine EEG technology, neuroscience, and machine learning for the following reasons. Back in that time, we knew that EEG is capable of detecting brain function alterations or changes triggered by cannabis or many other events like having a seizure or falling asleep. All of these events are altering our brain activity. But the problem has been that the brain functionality is so complex that we humans haven't been able to apply basic brain signal processing techniques in order to come up with standardized and universal uh, algorithms or identify complex patterns that apply for the majority of people. Because, I mean, I think that when you feel sleepy, for example, and what Dave or Jamie or me feel when we are sleepy is the same type of mental state, but detecting it in brain activity in a way that applies for everyone has been a big challenge for the scientists, for the scientific community, neuroscientists or neurologists. At an individual level, they can do it very accurately, but when it's about applying those findings on Dave to Jamie's data or my data, it hasn't been reliable, and that's the part where machine learning is completely disrupting the commercial use of EEG technology, because by having large EEG data sets and then combining that with brain signal processing techniques and applying machine learning to find complex patterns about different brain activity or brain function events that happen in different regions of the brain, and how this area interacts with this one, and at the same time how this area is interacting with this one, etc. That complexity is what machine learning is solving. And you probably have heard that AI is finding things that are like a black box. We don't really know what they mean. And that is kind of the case in our situation, where it's helping us to find very complex patterns associated to specific cannabis effects, like feeling high or intoxicated, feeling energized or feeling sleepy, etc. But we have been doing this for now 7 years. So we have built, I dare to say, the world's largest database of EEG or brain activity. It's a bank of human brain activity that has been scientifically characterized with all of these mental states, being high, and if you are high, what type of high you have been experiencing. Are you feeling sleepy or are you feeling energized? Are you feeling the body high or not? Are you having tachycardia, or your heart rate is decreasing, etc.? So with all of this information, we are analyzing the EEG of all of these huge database of consumers, and training algorithms to detect and quantify such
Looking for
cannabis effects.
commonalities. You're looking for commonalities in the data between individual sets and sort of saying, okay, can we tell broadly that a person who is kind of
Ex-
brainwaves are doing that means they're high, for example? Is that
exactly. At a
okay?
very basic kind of level,
Hmm.
that's how
Oh, I'm
machine
very
learning works,
basic. I
right?
need it very basic. That's the thing. To really understand. But again, if that's the sort of thing you're saying you have the potential to be able to do, and you're collating all of that data and you're kind of contrasting it, looking at it, and using AI and machine learning to really help interpret that, what's the kind of end result of that? What are you hoping to be able to sort of say to both consumers and cannabis companies with that level of information? What's the
Right.
benefit for them?
So we believe, Dave and Jamie, and we see that market need here in Canada and United States, that consumers want to buy products by effects. They don't necessarily understand, what minor cannabinoids do, right? And it's also a fact that there is no universal truths about cannabinoids. It all depends about the amount that you are consuming and how much you are consuming, etc. So all of that information, we believe that needs to be converted into reliable cannabis effect data, so the consumer can buy a product because they want to fall asleep, and they will find the right product. So the goal of the research that we are conducting is to generate objective and accurate cannabis effect information, first to the producers and the brands, so they can understand the performance of their products and how consumers are reacting to them. And then based on that, comply with the strict regulations that everyone believes that is prohibited to talk about cannabis effects, but it is not. It's just that the government knows that there is a lot of bullshit out there and misinformation, that they are trying to protect the consumer from misleading information. So they are saying, and if you want to describe any product attribute and make such claims for informational marketing, you need to prove it. You need to show that it's probably true. And the way that they are asking to do it is through scientific research. So we believe that that's the way cannabis companies and brands should measure the success of their products and position them in order to delight consumers. That's the objective.
That's very cool. I mean, the idea that we talk about data kind of empowering people, empowering businesses, it's really very much the point of it. And that prohibition around making claims is not quite as prohibitive. It just doesn't necessarily have, or companies don't at the moment have very many tools in their sort of chest to get the data they need to make claims. I'm really interested, some of the people that you've worked with, what are some of the characteristics of cannabis consumption that they're interested in tracking? You've mentioned kind of how sleepy does it make you, energized. What are some of the things that brands are really interested in finding out about their cannabis?
Well, first of all, I think that measuring the efficacy of the products to create fast psychoactive effects and in a consistent manner has been very important for the industry, because as you may know, depending on how you encapsulate or how you infuse a product with cannabinoids may define how fast and how strong and how long will be the experience.
Mhm.
So proving that has been very important for the producers and therefore for the consumer. And the other one is relaxation versus feeling energized. Many consumers, and this is not coming from me, it's a huge market research conducted in the United States, that the majority of the consumers want to use cannabis to relax, chill out, relax, or better fall asleep. And that's the second kind of more interesting effect that cannabis brands are looking for, on top of the typical potency of the THC psychoactive effects. And, and one way that we are helping the producers is that instead of just quantifying the concentration of THC in these products, we can actually quantify how strong is being experienced that psychoactive effect in a control group of consumers. So I think that those are the top effects that recreational producers are looking for. The therapeutic and medical space is completely different and more complex for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the really interesting spaces, you kind of touched on it there, is the different kinds of products. Typically, if you smoke cannabis, the onset is almost instant. It's very fast. But one of the places I imagine certainly brands that want to engage with new consumers who may be a bit cautious over having cannabis, either in a drink or in an edible, is the onset might be in an hour and 30 minutes, and that unpredictability and that lag is quite a scary thing. So for just kind of speaking to it, I suppose, the idea that a producer might be able to tell someone, hey, most users 45 minutes or most users 2 hours, just having that kind of framework makes that product almost more accessible because it makes it known. It kind of explains a part of it that normally is just this, figure it out, try it, test it, see it. Test and see is not really, I suppose, a very enticing thing for new customers. They want to know what they're getting into.
Exactly.
Just to sort of build on that, the idea of, just a very, again, coming back to me being very basic, this very basic level of wanting to look. I need some assurances before I try this. Otherwise, I'm scared. I'm scared to do it. I don't know what I'm getting into, And I guess that for a lot of people, that's bridging that gap between, I'll give this a try. Of like, oh no, again, it's that helping reduce that stigma, right? It plays into that kind of
Absolutely, Dave.
aspect of it.
Absolutely. And I think that sometimes, we that are into the cannabis industry, maybe sometimes we forget that this basic information is critical in order to help new or inexperienced consumers to start, trying out this new recreational approach to feel better, on a daily basis, or whenever you want to kind of feel more relaxed, or enjoy, your life, etc. So I think that the way you guys explain it is very accurate, is fundamental.
It's interesting to think about this and the possibilities for it from lots of different sides. Obviously, producers, brands really like it because it gives them a kind of competitive edge. They're allowed to say something about their product, whereas previously they haven't. And if they kind of pursue this route, it's presumably a differentiator for them. And consumers really like it because it's giving them trust and understanding before they try a product. Is there much interest, and maybe you can speak a bit if you'd like to, the origin of how you got started? Is there much interest from government in understanding, onset of kind of ingested products and how they can, I suppose, affect your judgment or impair you in some way?
Right. So, long story short, Zentrela was founded with the objective of using this type of technology for workplace safety and law enforcement. The Ontario Center of Innovation and the Ontario Brain Institute, which are, part of the Ontario government, funded us in order to build this technology because we had the opportunity to explain to them back in 2016 and 18 what were the flaws with existing drug tests, which is just quantifying the amount of a substance in your system, body fluids technically, right? And that many toxicology studies have proven that that is a very unreliable way of determining if a person is cannabis high or not, or cannabis impaired, because THC remains in blood, saliva, urine, or breath for many hours, days, or even weeks post-consumption, depending what oral fluid you are tracing. So when we explain this to them, and we explain our crazy idea back in 2016, that the brain is probably the only organ in our system, in our body, that is temporarily altered by the THC effect, it could be the most accurate, objective, and reliable way of determining if someone is high while driving or not, or working in the workplace when it's high or not, and prevent any potential risk of accident. The second point that we explain to them is, the problem that you are facing is not safety. The problem that you are facing is false accusations of cannabis impairment, because there are people that will have THC residues in their system, but they will not be impaired. And with existing drug tests, you will be making such claims. And that will be unfair the moment recreational cannabis becomes illegal for recreational consumption. So, long story short, they funded us in order to build it for safety and law enforcement. It was never used for that application, but back in that time, I started to connect with the producers and researchers, and that's the moment we pivoted to using this for research, because we believe that's the way of transforming the drug testing market, and shifting or moving away from quantifying amounts of a substance in body fluids to quantifying what you are actually experiencing in the brain, and being able to quantify it, which is the novelty aspect of our approach. We can quantify what you are feeling, and then based on that, transform multiple markets in the following 10 years or so.
It's really fascinating because at the moment, if you go and have a look at different strains on whatever website you want to go on, the way strains are generally rated is a scoring system of aggregated user reviews, a user is asked to say whether or not it makes them sleepy or energized, or if it gives them dry mouth or paranoia or whatever it is. And it's the best system available or previously available, because at least you're seeing people's interactions with it, firsthand, and they've got no reason really to lie generally. So the bigger a data set you have, chances are the more accurate it is, but it's not going to be applicable for kind of new product releases. That's only kind of post-use review as opposed to pre-launch. So yeah, it's interesting to see it being done from the other side.
Absolutely, Jamie. Like my view about the cannabis effect world is that it is the new wild west of the cannabis industry. If you think about it, it hasn't been, you know, I think that the current countries that have legalized the recreational consumption, they have set certain limits and regulations and rules in order to speak about them, but it hasn't been accurately, regulated how these cannabis effects should be characterized or quantified and described to the consumer. It's a new world, and I believe that we are the pioneers that are helping to discover that new field by showing the first signs of science and research tools that can be used to come up with new approaches to characterize cannabis effects. And we are personally very excited to see what will be the ripple effect of these in the following 5 or 10 years or even 20 years here in Canada. At a certain point, the states, I believe, at a certain point, they will do the federal legalization, and many more countries, especially in Europe and Asia and Africa and Latin America, are also legalizing cannabis. So it will be interesting to see how these new approaches may be adopted in order to better regulate that specific space of the industry, which is the most valuable at the end for the citizens, for the consumer.
Absolutely. And so where are you guys at now in terms of sort of customers? Are you still sort of testing? Are you sort of working directly with LPs in Canada, or
our lab is based in Hamilton, Ontario. Consumers come to our lab, and we use our neurotechnology and other research tools to characterize effects. But also we are partnering with cannabis brands or cannabis companies who have their own research lab. So we equip them with our technology, and they do their own research as well if they want to, internal research for new products, etc. But I guess where we are at this point is in the commercialization of our study results. At the end, our goal is to help brands and producers to share this information with the consumer. So we have been working closely with our existing clients in order to come up with educational programs at retail that will help the retailer and will help the brand to share these study results with the consumer. And based on that, help them to make an informed decision about what products they should select and how they should consume those products. So, executing this cannabis education program is the part where we are fully focusing on developing and strengthening, etc. So, reaching out and connecting with retailers, creating this network of retailers to participate in this education program. And then on the other side, we just continue applying machine learning to our massive database of EEG recordings to train more algorithms that help us to continue this continuing subjective test with one single measurement of electrical brain activity to determine how high you are, and if so, are you relaxed or energized, etc., etc. At the end, that's the end goal. One single EEG test that lasts 2 minutes, and we can tell you the whole cannabis experience that you are having at a certain point.
Wowzers. I mean, it really is the more you know, isn't it? Quite literally, in terms of like how the information you're collating, the data, and just being able to do something with that. And again, like you talk about this kind of black box of kind of data, it's finding ways to use that, isn't it? And I think again, it's
exactly
it's all just a work in progress. So, it's, in terms of the industry itself, in terms of like, what people need to know, in terms of what you know. But again, anything that builds that kind of education, that, you know, consumer confidence, that brand, you know, capability, you know, it's got to be a good thing. So no, it's awesome. So no, very best of luck to you, and I, you know, look forward to hearing more about it as time progresses. So keep us updated, Israel. That'd be great. But no, thank you so much for coming on, and yeah, we'll chat with you soon, I'm sure. So,
sounds good.
catch you soon.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me and sharing what we are doing at Zentrela with your audience, guys. It's been a nice conversation.
Very good. All the best. All right, we'll catch you soon. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
All
Bye-bye.
the best.